Jason Statler, NPC bodybuilder. I'm 4 weeks out from the Arnold Classic, where I'll be competing in the Classic Bodybuilding Division. I'm, like I said, currently 4 weeks out, and I've been working with Francis Benfatto since November of 2015 in preparation for this contest. In 2014, I did the NPC Western Michigan Championship. I placed first in the True Novice, first in the Novice Middle, and fourth in the Open Middle. And then in 2015, I did the NPC John Simmons Classic, where I placed first in the Open Middleweight men's bodybuilding category. I'd always been interested in sort of the aesthetic, pleasing, beautiful physiques of the 1980s and 1990s bodybuilders, particularly Bob Paris, Francis Benfatto, Lee Labrada, and the list goes on. And what I'd always, in my training, what I'd always try to do was pursue what I believe to be the ideal, and that's a mix of size, symmetry, posing ability, density, you name it. And when I saw that they had this category at the Arnold, I knew that this was going to be the competition for me because of what I hope to achieve in the sport of bodybuilding.
How did you end up looking up with a coach now?
You know, I looked at who I really respected and admired in the sport of bodybuilding, and Francis Benfatto's name was on the top of the list. And, you know, just through a stroke of luck, if you want to call it that, I sent him an email, and he was really receptive to the idea. And the rest is sort of history. We started working together back in November, and he's been training me since using his PPM method, or progressive performance methodology, which is his training style. Is very new and unique, but I've come a long way using it, and I believe it's going to pay dividends for the future. Francis was a well-known competitive bodybuilder in the 80s, early 90s, and he made a comeback in mid-2000, 2006. Francis was the French national champion in the early 80s and competed on the largest stage in the world at a number of Mr. Olympia championships. Actually placed fifth one year, I believe it was 1990. And Francis always represented the symmetry, the aesthetic, the beauty, the flowing proportions that sort of categorized or sort of characterized that era of bodybuilding. And Francis was well known and well admired even today by many people coming up in the sport.
Go ahead and explain to us his method of training and
Sure.
then what you trained it in.
Sure. Francis's method of training is called PPM, or the Progressive Performance Methodology. In the most basic terms, it is a combination of time under tension with the elements of progressive overload training incorporated into it. So what you need to do in this training in order to make it effective, you need to focus on all of the elements of the movement. This is going to be your tempo, your body placement and positioning, your intensity, as well as the weight that's being used. And you need to focus on having the precise implementation of all of those pieces of the puzzle in order to complete your movement. And so what you're going to see here is, in the first set, the tempo is going to be slow, but not too slow, but I'm using light weight because the focus is going to be on full range of motion and the stretch. Because when you're starting any workout, whatever day of the week it is, it's important to connect to your muscle, establish the mind-muscle connection. I like to do that on the first set. In the second set, you're going to be focused more on the weight itself and establishing what weight you want to use for your working sets. You're still going to be using the proper, precise range of motion and stretch, but now you're really going to be focused on, is this the correct weight that I need to be using for my working sets? And so you'll see I do a few fewer reps, and the tempo is a little bit longer, but I'm focused more on establishing that correct weight. And as you'll see in the working sets here, this is where the progressive overload method becomes apparent. Each set from working set 1 through 3, each set is drawn out a little more by tempo and by rep count. And the point of this is to make each set that you do more difficult than the previous set. Hopefully, if you do this properly, you'll be reaching positive failure, which is the last complete rep that you can hit on each of these sets as you go along. However, because you are establishing a deeper connection with the muscle fibers, you'll actually be able to do more reps at a slower tempo as you progress through working set 1 to 3. You know, before I started doing this training, I had always sort of done a lot of different exercises and had tried to hit different angles and different parts of the same body part. So for chest, you know, upper chest, lower chest, middle pec, that type of thing. But this PPM method emphasizes precise movements and taking your reps to failure, taking each set to failure. Whereas if you're doing a lot of volume, how many sets are you really taking to complete failure? So here, the focus is going to be on taking it to failure. Now, I'm closer to a show, so I have less energy and fewer expendable calories. So really what I need to do is execute one exercise properly, take that to complete failure, and kind of sell out on that one exercise. And today that was going to be pec deck. Earlier on in the prep, as the calories are a bit higher and, well, let's face it, your body's not quite as stressed due to the cardio, you can incorporate more movements, but you still need to focus on maximizing each individual movement. And if you find that you're unable to complete additional exercises with a precise form, it's better to focus on the one exercise and use proper execution in that training method. Right now, it's primarily just low-intensity cardio. I started off at the beginning of the prep about 25 minutes, a few days a week. I've progressively increased that every 3 or 4 weeks. Now I'm at about 45 minutes a day, and it's just steady state, you know, treadmill walking on an incline. And, you know, try to keep my heart rate up if I can, somewhere around the 130, 135 neighborhood. Nothing too intense, but it's still about 45 minutes. And I feel like that's been progressing my fat loss quite a bit. And you know, hopefully I won't need to increase it much more than that in the next 4 weeks. Well, Francis and I decided that my diet with the shows in the past had been proper for my body, and I had achieved the level of conditioning that we wanted in the past. So we're still focusing on the same type of diet. We've made a few modifications to it, but we're still focusing on the same type of diet that I'd used in the past, which is a ketogenic diet. That for me, really, given my work, school, and other activities outside of bodybuilding, it's the best diet for me to follow in order to have steady fat loss, because sometimes I found that this diet can be a good source of energy once you adapt to it. And so I can get sources of energy from fats as needed throughout the day. Number one, I wanted to bring up my chest going into this show. I wanted to bring out some more detail and density into my chest. So that was a big point of improvement for me this off-season, as well as during this contest prep. I wanted to develop better detail in my hamstrings in order to just get a thicker fiber in my hamstrings so that they'll be more apparent on stage. And, you know, other than that, I just wanted to continue to improve in every facet of the game. The posing, obviously, is important, as any bodybuilder will tell you. Posing can make the difference between first and second, and it can make the difference between third and fourth. I mean, it's a big part of what we do. So I wanted to polish that up, and I'm continuing to do that over the next 4 weeks as well. Yeah, classic bodybuilding is a much different beast than open bodybuilding as we know it in the U.S. In classic bodybuilding, it's actually round-by-round elimination. So you'll start off with your symmetry round, which gets scored. And on the judges' scorecards, you will have a score for the symmetry round alone. And then depending on the size of the class, there may be eliminations where only a certain number of competitors will then move on to the mandatory round, which is also scored. And as you'll see on the judges' cards, it's got its own score. And then a certain number of competitors, depending on the class size, will then get eliminated, and the top third will go into the posing routine, which is also scored. And the winner is going to be the lowest combined score of the symmetry, the compulsory poses, and the posing routine rounds.
And just so people know, too, this is, so you'll be going against people from all different countries. You'll possibly be the only United States guy in there. I'm not sure how many.
Yeah, it's possible. I believe the competitors' lists are going to be posted next week or the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure how many U.S. competitors there'll be in it, but there's going to be a significant number of European competitors. Primarily Russians have done well in the past in this, as well as competitors from South America and Australia. The classic bodybuilding division actually exists and is pretty popular in Europe and elsewhere. For whatever reason, they hadn't started it in the United States, but over the last 10 years or so, it's been a pretty popular division abroad.
I shot it for Flex Magazine 3 years ago, and you get some impressive people from all over, and people bring it from Europe. I mean, no one messes around. You know, you look great, though. I think you'll do well. Do you feel like, in your opinion, Bud, do you think it's something that's going to catch on here, or do you think they're switching to the classic physique now, kind of, so that's going to...
I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think classic bodybuilding will really catch on the way it has in Europe, because there hasn't been an established paradigm for it in the United States. Had they started it a number of years ago when they started it in Europe, I think it would have established a bit more of a following than it did. Now, with the NPC and IFBB starting this new classic physique division, that's going to, in my opinion, be the U.S. equivalent of classic bodybuilding, especially given the fact that there's a professional division now in the United States for this classic physique. Unfortunately, the judging criteria and the attire is a little bit different in classic bodybuilding than it is in classic physique, but that's just the way that it is, and so it's a little bit different of a different sport. However, it's still going to be focused on sort of the same look and the same aesthetic value, if you will, that classic bodybuilding focuses on.
Good deal. Well, good luck in the show, man. We'll be keeping your eyes out for you, and hope you kill out there, man.
Thank you so much. And hey, I just wanted to give a few thank yous if I can. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for the opportunity to be healthy enough to train and to be able to pursue a hobby that I very much appreciate and very much am passionate about. And I'd like to thank Jeff for spending his time with me today. Jeff's a great friend of mine, and any day I get to spend with him just catching up and filming is a blessing. I'd like to thank my girlfriend, Christiana Nevis, who's a great support for me. I love her with all my heart, and I know some of the guys out there will probably think that's a little cheesy, but she means a lot to me and guides me a lot during prep. I'd like to thank Francis Benfatto for all the work that he's done for me and helped me with and taking me under his wing and showing me the intricacies of his program. And of course, I'd like to thank Advanced Muscle Science for taking an interest in me and providing me with some of the best ergogenic aids and supplements on the market today.